Toronto to get us underway through the boots of Gareth O'Brien, once a Salford hero in the qualifiers when he kicked a injury time, a golden point drop goal.
And it's interesting that he's the first name that we've mentioned, because I think he is the man who we may well be mentioning in dispatches at the end of this game. I think he's going to have a key role in the outcome of this match. It's a classy three-quarter line. I like Chase Stanley, Gary Wheeler. Nice to have seen him recover and resurrect his career. Caton Brown and Russell on the wings are exciting for me, but Gareth O'Brien is the man that I am looking forward to watching this afternoon.
There's Luke Burgess in action for Salford. His brothers Sam, George and Tom on the end of an agonising playoffs defeat with South Sydney yesterday. 28-29 they went down. So Luke Burgess hoping for better things today. It's Toronto in possession. Here's Matty Russell. First scamper from him, just inside his own half. And now Ashton Sims. He's got family connections with the NRL playoffs as well. His brother's involved tomorrow. And Toronto edging their way forward with Jack Buchanan. 4 tackles gone, this set of 6. Here is Sims. Blake, Wallace, on to Corey Patterson, and that's the 5th tackle. Good defence so far, and Wallace just dinks a kick up into the air, and Niall Evalds is underneath it without too much pressure to claim the ball for Salford.
Strong start from the Wolfpack. The first set in defence was impressive. They prevented Salford from making much ground, as they are doing again here now in this tackle. When they've controlled their attack, they've spread it around, but just a disappointment that they didn't challenge that kick as it came down.
Here is Chris Wellham, very experienced in the 3 quarters for Salford. Chris Wellham making his 50th Salford appearance in this game. Now George Griffin, keen to have a big game, back in the side. He's had a stop-start season as Griffin. Robert Louis, how crucial will his contribution be? Puts the kick in, and it's a good one. O'Brien's going to have to return it. No, he's not. He says Mason Caton Brown can have the chance.
I think you can upgrade that, but it was better than good. It was great. You can get the ball to sit like that in the in-goal area. 2 tackles gone here now with their opponent still trapped in that 20-metre zone. They'll be very happy that the more often they can do that.
Chase Stanley. Big influence for this Toronto side, Chase Stanley. Buchanan now. Approaching the 40-metre line. Bezic back to O'Brien. Drills a kick downfield, and Evalds time behind that ball to gather. A high shot and the first penalty of the game.
A nice combination, wasn't it, where the ball picked up by the fullback and Jake Bibby passes it. The referee's going to pull out some players. Look, changes direction and thrown out. Well, not whether it really was much of a penalty, but referees, what's the word?
It's a bit of...
I've blown the penalty, yeah, it might be sweet, but we're not having that all day. Penalty.
Bit of winding up going on there, I think. And Jackson Hastings has certainly made an impact since he signed for Salford. Seems to have been a really inspired recruit. And he's got plenty of character. He's got plenty of points in him as well. Here is Junior Sal, likewise in good form, ever present in all 27 for Salford this season. The only man in their ranks who's lasted the distance. Burgess. In the opening minutes here at the AJ Bell. Jackson Hastings, and here's Josh Jones. 3 there to complete the tackle. And Hastings drifts a kick in, and Evalds is chasing this one. The ball is lost. O'Brien manages to get it at the 2nd attempt, but Toronto, Salford will get head and feed after that Toronto error.
Well, this one play tells you why Salford won in round 1 against Hull KR and why I think they'll win again. Their ability and enthusiasm to chase accurate kicks and put their opponents under pressure got them off to a great start against the Rovers, and may just do the same here now as Gareth O'Brien fumbles the ball just short of his try line.
And he wasn't allowed any time to collect that ball because of the positioning and that honest chase from Niall Evalds. It was a pre-call between Hastings and Evalds. Evans herring down on Gareth O'Brien. He wasn't afforded the luxury of time to work out the bounce of that ball, and this is a golden opportunity early in this game for Salford.
Slippery conditions, as mentioned earlier on, and the error presenting this Salford side with possession just 10 metres out as Jones is tackled. Josh Wood, and here's Ryan Lannon now restored to the Salford side. One of a couple of changes that the coach has made. Good work from Dixon, but Hastings was the equal of it with a little step that got him out of trouble. Dixon up very quickly, but the cavalry was there for Toronto. Right in front of those posts now. Lamatazi probably has the scent of another try, having got his first of the season last time out. Josh Wood, here is Louis. Louis short ball, good defence. Blake Wallace it was down low on George Griffin. Louis gets the pass away. Evans out wide. They're in for the first try of the game, and it's Ed Chamberlain who gets in there. Chamberlain goes down low. Great pass though from Niall Eccles to put him in, and a brave finish from the recent recruits from the Widnes Vikings. Ed Chamberlain gets his second try in the qualifiers.
Really smart stuff leading up to this. This is a mistake, but it's forced by that chase from Evans. O'Brien not afforded the time, any time to read that ball. Just look at the hands here, belies the conditions. They really are awful today. Matty Russell, well, he felt the need to come out of that line and try and apply some pressure, but have a look at that for hands from Evans. You wouldn't say it's his natural position, certainly not 2 or 3 years ago, but he's really worked on that catch and pass in the fullback role, and Ed Chamberlain the beneficiary in the corner. When we were talking pre-game, Phil, you with Brian, and you were talking about Toronto's ability, or the question mark being on their ability to play at a certain level of intensity week in, week out. That's probably an example of it. A little bit more patience from Matty Russell may have ended up with a different result there.
Outstanding play from Salford, wasn't it, in the set? 6 tackles from the scrum. They tested the Wolfpack back in the centre, then shifted it to the right. And the movement between Wellham and Evans, we might get to have a look at this again after this conversion attempt here. The fullback in the centre, just what they do to confuse Toronto and create the space for the winger to dive in the corner. It's classy play.
Well, Ed Chamberlain scored it. Ed Chamberlain will try and convert it now. He's landed 15 goals so far in the qualifiers. This will be one of the most difficult ones he's been faced with. Bit of a breeze to help him, and it looks good. Flags go up, the cheers go up. And Salford could be going up, back up to Super League. They're off to a great start here.
Well, you can see the movement there between the centre and the fullback Evans. You know, Salford are fortunate, as well as having Ian Watson, they've got another player who I think was probably one of the classiest centres to play in the last 20 years in this country, Martin Gleeson. And I've no doubt that the time he spends with the outside backs has helped to contribute in some small way to that try.
O'Brien restarts, and Salford supporters, not again huge in number, but very loud, as they were at Halifax last week, and really made themselves heard. And they've got a lot to cheer about at the moment.
You're right, they're the best singers in Super League. They just need more to cheer about more often, and they put ahead of fans attending. They're fantastic. They made a massive effort to lift the team against the Halifax side, and they've done that again here now to start today.
The best singers in Super League. That is a claim.
He's angling for a quick exit from the car park, I think, there, Bill.
I'm not.
Well, Salford in possession. Referee calls held on the 5th tackle, and Robert Louis. This time he hoists a high one. It's towards Mason Caton Brown, and neither he nor O'Brien were interested in that. And O'Brien eventually claims the ball over his own try line. Well, they made a horrible mess of that, didn't they?
That's uncharacteristic, and this time they have got time. I think O'Brien's thought from the word go that this was Mason Caton Brown's ball.
Was he offside? I'm not sure.
I think there were 1 or 2 offside.
It shouldn't affect the decision making from the back three. They've got to secure the ball first and foremost, and that communication between Caton Brown
it's Josh
and
Jones.
Gareth O'Brien.
He's in front of the kicker, isn't he? There, the guy 3 up from the bottom.
As I said, yes, I agree with what we're seeing, but that should not affect what's happening with those back three. That ball needs to be secured.
So a shaky start from Toronto. Just a bit of treatment at the moment.
And there will be nerves here as well, Bill. I mean, this has been a journey that's been 18 months in the making, and they're now at the pinnacle, aren't they? They have a real bona fide opportunity of progressing into the top league, the elite league in this sport, in Super League. As we look back at the clash of heads, yeah, and it's just a bit of friendly fire, I think, between Chase Stanley and Andrew Dixon.
Well, Andrew Dixon's role as a defender is very important, because you saw him making one tackle on Hastings. He's made others already. Closing down the time and space of this creative young halfback for the Reds is important. He's attempted to shoot it at the sideline. Ricochets back off So's legs. He's kept it in play.
Almost got away from him then. Chase Stanley closing down. But Salford immediately back on the attack. And Josh Jones in good form at the moment. Josh Jones plays the ball in the middle of the field now. And Toronto on the back foot as Ryan Lannon plays the ball. Hastings, Jones gets one from Darcy Lussick. I think just looked at the referee and questioned how high that challenge was. Luke Burgess now. And Toronto on their own try line as Salford come looking for more points, and then again go to that side, and this time Evans keeps it to himself. But the referee has not awarded the try yet, and there's a suspicion of obstruction.
Well, if there is, it'll be a real shame. And probably something that will be pulled up in a video review next week, because at the start of that play they had plenty of numbers and acres of space.
Gary Wheeler, the one defender in here with a black shirt on, he starts to run up. His collision now with Chris Wellham.
Well, in which case that's poor from Wellham, because they had the space and the numbers there to score without him taking him out. Wellham's got to choose an outside or inside, preferably that inside shoulder, and you would say this is going to get chalked off, Phil.
It has to do, doesn't it? Even though I think Gary Wheeler does lean towards Chris Wellham there to save himself.
Well, no viewing of the grounding. The try is disallowed, and that's frustrating for Salford. A relief for Toronto, because Evalds was on his way then.
Yeah, they've been outplayed in this opening 10 minutes. They need to wake up quickly now and get into the action, because the speed and skill of the outside backs from Salford, again, I mentioned Martin Gleeson before, the back plays for a couple of seasons now have been pretty impressive. They've punched above the weight with some of the attacking shapes that they've thrown.
Salford ahead by 6 points to nil, could have been 10, 12, but that one chalked off, and Toronto not hanging around. Back up to the halfway line as Corey Patterson, once a Salford player, plays the ball. Here's Ashton Sims. Sims, Corbin and Tariq, his brothers, involved in playoff action, and that was a good challenge from Hastings on Josh McCrone.
Always very hard to beat a team when their best attacker wants to be the best defender, and that's what Jackson Hastings is today. Shot up there and showed his commitment, lifted the rest of his team.
Darcy Lussick plays the ball, they get the penalty, just too much there from Salford in defence.
Yeah.
Griffin.
First tackle was a good one, wasn't it? Knocked him off his feet, slip in the conditions, but
Back you come.
get a first opportunity now to see Toronto Wolfpack. Patterson past to Wheeler.
And Wheeler very nearly catching Salford on the hop there. That's a good restart from Toronto from that penalty. They have an opportunity here now. Here is Jack Buchanan. Salford on their own try line, in front of their own supporters. Under pressure here now. Ashton Sims. The ball comes out wide. O'Brien looking for redemption. Can't quite get there. On the try line, Mason Caton Brown. He's held up. That's good defence from Salford. 4 tackles gone. So Chase Stanley shifts it out to McCrone. McCrone to Bezic. Bezic to Darcy Lussick, but he was standing still. They've lost momentum, they've lost ground. That's the 5th tackle. And it'll be the kick to come from McCrone. Puts a little grubber kick in. Not the best, and Lannon gets it at the 2nd attempt.
Really good defence by Salford. Play 2 of that set of 6. Junior Sow had a really big decision to make on whether to commit to Chase Stanley or to go out and take care of Gareth O'Brien. He's got very little time to make a decision. He managed to do enough to cover both situations. Excellent play.
That's the kick that Lannon managed to get hold of. before it ricocheted away. Here is the try scorer, the goal kicker, Ed Chamberlain. Quick play the ball from him. Wellham. There's plenty of pace to this game. And there's a penalty. They're coming thick and fast at the moment. It's that time Toronto just niggling and needling. Bezic.
Salford have forced that. They lost all shape. You could see them looking up from here at the gantry. No shape at all. This was a set where the outside backs were going to get in, try and gain some momentum. It took them till the last, but they got the rewards because I don't think Toronto could handle the pace.
Surrender!
George Griffin in his 4th Salford season, making his first appearance since the end of June. Griffin is. Luke Burgess.
Move, Darcy! Hold.
He's had his injury problems, missed 12 games. Now Jackson Hastings. Hastings drifting across field and then hits Griffin with the pass, but good tackle from Blake Wallace. Josh Wood to Robert Louis. Louis, chunky figure, but with great skills. Josh Wood now, Ryan Lannon. Lannon runs into the combined tackle of Lussick and Buchanan. Loses the ball, and congratulations all round from Toronto for that successful bit of defence.
Well, the please wanted to get their hands on the ball, not face the last tackle. The ball's gone in there on Ryan Lannon. Referee stops the clock, and Toronto, that's been a fast start. 13 minutes now, we've gone end to end. We've had one try. Very few stoppages.
No, mate, it's the second time taking off around the back.
It's the speed of reaction as well. They've lost all shape in the set that has gained the momentum and ultimately the penalty that led to that position and threat to Toronto's line. Toronto need to respond to that quicker.
Okay, guys, let's get in.
And not being asked maybe as serious questions in the championship. It's stepped up a level for them now. An opposition side loses its shape and sends its back three in. You compress.
Andrew Dixon having to leave the field. It doesn't look as though that's going to be held together with a bit of tape. Might need some stitches in that at some point. But he is off the field, getting patched up. Darcy Lussick was struggling as well as play resumed there. And it resumes with Toronto in possession. Second time these two clubs have met. The only other time was in last season's Challenge Cup when Salford won 29-22. Despite having a man sent off. Bezic. Here is Blake Wallace. It's a big hit. The ball comes free. And Lamatazi making his presence felt.
Well, he threw the dummy. If he'd thrown the pass on the first one, Gareth O'Brien looked like he'd... And then he switched off.
Get away, guys, please.
Oh, it's time. Tackle comes in. Is it a high tackle? I don't think it's a late one.
Take the players that way.
Is it early more than late?
I think it's that's high and off the ball. Whether he's come off for his shoulder or not, he's ended up in his chin. So that's high and off the ball.
Take your time.
Touch judge on.
That's high and off the ball. I'd be surprised if there's not a card of some colour here.
Referee Robert Hicks is taking advice. And he's gone to the pocket. So what's in there? Let's have a look. Hang on. It's got to be there somewhere.
The ball, mate.
There it is.
And a secondary contact.
Lamatazi.
Well, this is the leveler. This is the leveler that Toronto needed, because they've looked like a team from a lower division playing against a Super League side for me for 13 minutes. Now they've faced 12 men. They'll get another chance to attack. There's no argument with that. It's a yellow card for Lamatazi. His teammates now need to do their best without him.
So big opportunity for Toronto now. Here is Corey Patterson, barges off the challenge of Robert Louis. Left Louis on the deck. Griffin completes the tackle. Blake Wallace now. Ashton Sims. Craig Kopczak comes tearing out the line to make the tackle. Kopczak thrown into the fray. And Darcy Lussick has lost the ball. Josh Jones picks it up, and Salford will counter, and Jackson Hastings can make a real presence of this opportunity now. There's the tackle.
Well, Salford have been the better side with and without the ball. Obviously they're going to 12 men. And luckily not to be penalised there, Toronto. They crowd getting forward, but it just seems to me Salford are playing the game quicker.
I like the attitude as well. I mean, they've been down to 12 men, and the immediate response was aggressive from the man with the ball in his hand now, Kopchak. Aggressive in defence and creative in attack as well.
Gets the pass away to Josh Wood. Louis just jolts away from the first challenge, then flings the ball out wide to Ed Chamberlain. Chamberlain, nice stepping run from the winger. And Salford immediately on the attack. Here is Robert Louis again. Louis to Jackson Hastings. Hastings, Chase Stanley comes out of the line, misses the tackle, and Hastings takes some stopping. Eventually it's O'Brien and Besic who make the tackle. Josh Woods now. Here is Louis. Louis, quick hands to Junior Sal. Sal tackle just short of the Toronto try line. 12 men of Salford putting the pressure on now, and Louis gets over. And Toronto, thinking that the ball was going to go out wide, could not stop Robert Louis, just barging his way over to get his third try in the qualifiers and chase that all the way back to the enthusiasm at the other end of the pitch.
Well, it culminated in Darcy Lussick, didn't he? Having the ball forced through in a tackle, but the tone was set. The tackle before this from Craig Kopchak. This time it's Josh Wood who gets down low, and then the culmination of that down to 12 men is Robert Louis, and this is what we're talking about, the attitude. So often when you go down to 12 men, you'll see a side, they'll take the foot off the gas, they'll be conservative, they'll just try and mark time until they can regain their full complement of players. Not so Salford, not today.
Robert Louis getting tries in 4 of his last 5 games now, and he got a crucial one. He really got Salford's ball rolling in these qualifiers with that interception try against Hull KR.
Yes, it really was the turning point of the game. 8 points to 4 they led. I took it to 14-4, and they never looked badly. The Rovers couldn't dig themselves out of that hole. But in this game so far, the Reds have been too quick, too clever, and they've simply got too much class at present in this opening 15, opening 20 minutes of this match.
Wolfpack coach Paul Rowley, shake of the heads, because they should have been down the other end of the field. They were in a great position. They were up against 12 men, and they squandered possession, and here they are lining up behind their own try line, watching Ed Chamberlain lining up another conversion. Meanwhile, Chamberlain's teammates in red getting the applause of their supporters at the other end of the field. And Salford off to a good start here, looking for a 4th win in the qualifiers. And Chamberlain looking for a 2nd success of this game. Round the corner, on target, and Salford lead by 12 points to 0 against the strongly fancied Toronto Wolfpack.
Well, they've got arguably the best 2 half-backs in a rugby league team in this country at present, with Robert Louis and Jackson Hastings. We've seen in this game here, they've shown a tremendous commitment. They've carried the ball, they've scooted from near their own try line, both of them keen to take the ball forward. They're not afraid to get tackled with the ball, and they're in complete control at present.
Yeah, Toronto not really able to get their game into gear and pose an attacking threat to Salford. It's been all about the Red Devils at the moment.
Well, unable to put Ryan Lennon on the floor, who I know is a good player and a strong one with wide legs and a good balance. But having had a minute's rest to wait for that conversion, 2nd tackle of a set there, to be unable to put him back, and then to compound that by conceding a penalty.
Olsi Krasnicki joining the fray, another of the former Salford contingent in this Toronto side. Made his name with the London Broncos, Olsi.
And it's a response as well from Paul Rowley, a triple change. You might see from the graphic at the bottom of the screen. It's not often a coach does that, and very often that's a sign of underlying unease, isn't it, from a coach?
Well, Darryl Powell did it last night, if you remember.
And he needed to, yeah, and exactly. He wasn't getting the response he thought, and from his team at the time.
Oh, handling error. We don't understand the conditions.
Griffin has lost the ball. Adam Sidlow in possession.
Reds, even though they scored those points, 12 tries against Halifax last week, perhaps at times guilty of losing the ball in the tackle too easily. Started to creep in here now, just short of the 20-minute mark.
Here's Krasnicki again. There's Jake Emmett who played the ball.
Let him up.
Emmett's Blake Wallace. Good defence. Upending Gareth O'Brien. Chris Wellham was then. Corey Patterson. Here is Sidlow. Upright running style from Adam Sidlow, taking it right to the opposition. Bob Bezic.
Oh, he's penalised him. He said it's an incorrect play of the ball. I think the first movement from the referee was almost a knock-on.
Sidlow bemused by that decision.
The ball's not gone backwards, I think, were the words. And plus, he put his hand on Niall Eval's leg, which would have been a penalty and not a knock-on. But if we get to see that again...
You can't hold a man's leg, and then if he goes to floor, it'll go against you.
And Adam Sidlow just querying that. So the final games in the first round of the playoffs, Brisbane against St George Illawarra, is tomorrow at 6:55 a.m. on Sky Sports Arena from the NRL.
Let's get bang, guys, come on.
That's where Ashton Sims' brothers Corbin and Tariq will be involved for Brisbane and St George Illawarra. Ashton Sims, meanwhile, and his Toronto side trailing 12 points to 0. Sims, I think, off the field in one of those changes.
Ooh, that's better defence from the Wolfpack. Sidlow,
though, could be penalised again. Got away with it that time. Because Toronto are just trying to slow this Salford progress down. Here's Josh Jones now. Jones does well to offload to another Josh. Wood to Robert Louis. Louis was looking to offload, but the ball's come up for Corey Patterson, and the referee says that's a knock-on. I think it'll be Toronto's head and feet, will it?
Not sure. I'm unsighted from this position. He's given it to Toronto. We'll look at where the knock-on is. I felt it went backwards. Well, can't see even on that second angle.
Well, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a situation where you can have decisions go against you. Salford are in complete control of this game. There'd be no reason why you would need to do this. The game, you can't win the game in the opening 20 minutes. They're in control. Get to the end of the set. Toronto are clearly struggling at the moment with their team cohesion to make any kind of dent in that Salford defence.
But it can't be up the jumper time yet.
No,
John.
but you can be guilty of overplaying as well, Phil.
Blake Wallace gets away from the first challenge, makes some meters for Toronto, and then gets a penalty. It's just a little swinging hand from Ryan Lannon. And a bit of aftershave applied as well. Here's Bezic. Bezic to Blake Wallace. Wallace to Gary Wheeler. Wheeler is tackled by Robert Louis. Blake Wallace now. Blake Wallace plays the ball about 5 metres out. Here's Bezic. Jake Emmett. But Emmett is driven back. Good defence from Josh Wood and Ryan Lannon on that occasion. Bezic. The ball onto Chase Stanley, but Junior Sal very quickly up on him. They've done their homework on Chase Stanley and how important he is. Here is Josh McCrone. McCrone to Krasnicki, who is rolled over by Kopchak. Sidlow and Blake Wallace. Josh Wood is so quickly up on him, and he gets the plaudits of his teammates, and that is the turnover.
But if you're short of numbers, outnumbered by the attackers, you've got to move up quickly and close down the play. Chris Wellham managed to do that. He knew there was an overlap. If the Toronto side had got the ball outside of him, there were 3 attackers and only his teammate to defend against them. But look, manages just about to close down the play. Before this game, Salford's defence, they've just conceded 4 tries in the 3 matches so far today. They really focused as much on defending as they have attacking.
But Toronto seem to be their own worst enemies in that attacking third of the field as well, and it's the play after the play.
And now the break from Salford, and it's Joey Lussick just on the field.
And this will be a card, I'm sure, John.
The referee, meanwhile, has penalised Toronto.
When you see the referee walking away, he's buying himself some thinking time, because Joey Lussick directly on the park is pulled down. But have a look what happens here after the tackle. The initial tackle was good, but Gareth O'Brien is trying to buy his teammates the time to get back. And that could be construed as a professional foul.
Bit niggly and things. With hands on heads, with people lying in space, with people willing to concede. This is both your opportunity. Sort your teams.
Josh McCrone, the Toronto captain, given an ultimatum by referee Robert Hicks.
Sensibly adjudged, I think, by Robert Hicks as well. Salford aiming for the 2 points, which will allow me to finish the point about Toronto. They set up for the big play, and that all looks nice, but if that doesn't come off, it's what they do the tackle afterwards. I don't think there's a clear plan B for them. I don't think they react well to not being successful in their strike play in an attacking set. And again, you know, it's another symptom of playing against better quality defences than they have done consistently this season. Something that the coach Paul Rowley will have to address if they want a serious tilt at playing in the elite competition.
Paul Rowley and Simon Finnegan with a lot to ponder after the first quarter of this game, as Ed Chamberlain lines up another kick. There is Joey Lussick playing against big brother Darcy for the first time ever in this game. Both of them signing up for this adventure. Chamberlain maintains his record, and Salford lead by 14 points to 0.
Toronto are a little fortunate that they've still got 13 players on the field, because we used to classify this as a professional foul and a sin bin. You see Lussick just step inside Bezic and then held down for too long. I don't know whether he dives in the end himself. Gareth O'Brien's got hold of his legs. The final dive there, well, there's not a lot of contact. Maybe that's the reason why the referee didn't pull out a yellow card. Gareth O'Brien gets to kick off again.
So not a lot going Toronto's way at the moment, although they are back to a full complement. They have been at full complement. Salford are back to a full complement. Junior Sow now in possession. 24 minutes gone, and it's been 24 minutes largely dominated by the Salford Red Devils, really. Toronto haven't managed to get into the game to any great effect. That'll be frustrating for them.
Well, the next 10 minutes is about the Toronto Wolfpack digging their heels in, trying to find themselves a foothold in the game, and it starts with a decent set in defence. It doesn't need to be magnificent, just needs to be solid and restrictive of metres for Salford. They've reached the end of the tackle count on the last tackle, still inside the half. That's the first success.
Louis hoists the kick. Now then, will they be more decisive under this one? Well, Mason Caton-Brown didn't have much option there because it came straight to him.
Well, what we're looking for now is that quick play the ball from a player like Dixon or Mason Caton-Brown to get them rolling forward. That's a quicker one. No, the referee wants the game quicker. I think so do all of those supporters.
Matty Russell, scampering run from the former Warrington man. And Toronto edging towards the halfway line, but struggling to make much progress. Gary Wheeler plays the ball. Emmett now.
Last trade move. Near me, Josh. Go.
Kopchak with the tackle. And Blake Wallace dinks a kick in, but it's into the arms of Ed Chamberlain, and Chamberlain, burst of acceleration from the wingman.
It's a poor kick, isn't it? Given the conditions, given how greasy the surface and the ball is, your percentage option there is along the ground. Try and turn one of those back three around, and instead of tackle two approaching the 40, you may well be inside the 20, and that's the nucleus of the problem for Toronto.
Here's Chris Wellham now, up to the halfway line. And now Lamatasi back on the field, having been in the sin bin for that high tackle on Gareth O'Brien. So normal service restored for the Red Devils. The kick from Hastings, and O'Brien slithers across, and Bibby makes sure he doesn't get to his feet. Here is Mason Caton-Brown. Hastings on the follow-up makes the tackle. Good intensity from Salford.
I think when your kickers and halfbacks make that effort there, you see the rest of the team follow them. Both Louis and Hastings have been brilliant, but Toronto have just got to ride through this difficult period. 14-0. They need an element of luck. They need a break in play. Oh, that ball knocked out by Kopchak, patted down almost, back towards his own line according to the referee. Survival mode now.
Russell had his pocket pick there.
Stand now, hold.
Kopczak stealing the ball.
Well, Matt Flanagan's on the field. He replaced Ryan Lannon, who was good. I'll give them more width here with his passing game.
Here is Jackson Hastings. Hastings balloons a pass out wide to Jake Bibby. No place for Daryl Olferts, despite the fact he got a hat-trick last time out. Jake Bibby restored. Salford's top try scorer he is. Here is Junior Sal. Robert Louis. Louis closed down by Sidlow, but able to put a crossfield kick in, but it bounces down. Still on the last, still going backwards, says the referee, and O'Brien picks it. Oh, he doesn't. O'Brien knocks it on.
Well, Salford's kicks have been brilliant because they've been so difficult for Toronto to deal with. Whoever's
George
kicked
Griffin.
it, George Griffin kicks it over the top, bouncing on this slippy surface. Got a defender instantly in his face.
If you ask George Griffin to replicate that 100 times, I don't think you'd get the same result, but he'd be very happy with that. Another forced error from Gareth O'Brien.
Backspin and everything.
I don't care who you're talking to.
Is that shock?
Well, again, it's, the backspin is you know, ultimately a shanked kick. I don't think it's intentional,
yeah,
Bill.
that's
You're giving a prop
harsh.
forward too much credit, but also the conditions as well. Incredibly greasy. And as he's gone in on the shoulder, he's come up with an injury as well.
We'll see Toronto again next Saturday, 5:15, when they host Toulouse at Sky Sports
He's got
Arena.
Barry's teeth in today, Bill.
And that's next Saturday. They'll be back home. In fact, they're on a plane tomorrow, the Toronto team, and back into camp to prepare for that game. Meanwhile, Salford are on the attack once more. Here is Junior Sal. Sal with O'Brien going down low to make the tackle. Joey Lussick pointing the way. It's to Josh Jones. Jones is brought down, can't make any progress. Now Hastings to Louis. Louis, short ball for Griffin. Oh! Tried to get the pass away to Evolds, but Matty Russell was there first.
Outstanding defence there, just about to hold out the Salford side, who they've favoured the right flank, haven't they? Over towards Chris Wellham's centre position. Attacked whenever they possibly can. They're aiming at running through. The timing of the run is brilliant, but Blake Wallace's tackle just to deny him, it's kept the Wolfpack alive.
You could probably reasonably expect, if you were George Griffin, you could reasonably expect somebody to be on the end of that pass, couldn't you?
Just dipping down.
Not by Russell, yeah.
McCrone thumps a kick downfield, but straight into the arms of Bibby. Bibby then to Niall Evolds. And Evolds made a remarkably swift recovery from a broken leg earlier this season. Only missed 5 games after he recovered from that.
Well, that's great marker defence from Bob Bezic there. Closed down the time for Chris Wellham. Again, not very effective runs from Salford, so there's a boost, although they're really setting up, I think, maybe now to stretch their opponents.
Half an hour gone. Salford ahead by 14 points to 0. Here is Mark Flanagan. Lussick. Jackson Hastings now. Hastings. He's been very effective at wrong-footing opponents and making the most of gaps that can expose as Jackson Hastings. Maybe the word's got out. The word has certainly got out about him. Whether he'll be in Salford colours next season is very debatable. A lot of attention, a lot of interest in Jackson Hastings because of the impact he's made. Here is Matty Russell.
I think there would have been interest anyway. I am mindful of something that Ian Watson said earlier in the year, that with all the baggage and the storylines that were attractive with Jackson Hastings earlier in the year, that Salford were the ones who took the chance on him, and therefore Salford are the rightful beneficiaries, and it may well be the difference between Super League and Championship Rugby.
The kick is hoisted.
It's a great chase.
It was O'Brien who got there.
It was a wonderful effort from beyond what you'd expect to if I came. The timing of his run up full speed, up in the air, contesting with Junior Sow. You do that often enough, there'll be some that bounce in your favour.
Jackson Hastings and Andrew Dixon having quite a conversation there.
Hold, go.
But it's Salford in possession, deep in their own half.
Well, they're not playing it quickly in the last 10 as they did in the first 10, and that's got to be a boost here for the Toronto team here now. They're up to speed, just closing down the space.
Lamatasi is stopped on his own 20-metre line. Here is Chris Wellham now, socks round his ankles, customary fashion from the former Hull Kingston Rovers man. Nearly 200 appearances for KR, that's a good kick.
Just short of a 40-20 from Joey Lussick.
Went for it, I think he was looking for it, wasn't he?
Without a doubt he was looking for it. And he's fallen short by about 30 centimetres there. But listen, it's still a good result, isn't it, for Toronto? They've been the dominant side in the opening half an hour of this game. They've rarely looked uncomfortable in defence. And the shame is, from a Toronto point of view, is neither have they, when they've been defending in the middle part of the field, the basic mechanics of that defensive unit for Toronto work. They've struggled on their left edge in defence when they're in their own goal area, and that's a large part in the way that they're ending their sets in possession. Something for Paul Rowley to try and fix up at half-time.
Head in, Niall. Andy, make sure your head goes in.
Head and feeds to Toronto on their own 20-metre line. Well, they've maybe stemmed the flow from Salford, but it's now a question of whether they can reverse the tide, so to speak.
They need it. They need a little bit of luck here, don't they? Because Salford's defence looks impregnable at the moment.
Well, the secret is to build into this. It's a cliche in rugby league, but you build the pressure and you start to ask questions of that defensive line. Don't go looking for points on every single possession.
Blake Wallace, that's the 5th tackle, as he made a half break there. And O'Brien hoists that one. Evalds' eyes focused on that ball, and he was underneath it as Josh McCrone came and collected him. Did well there, Evalds. Here's Chris Wellham, Corey Patterson, Gary Wheeler doing the tackling for Toronto. Chamberlain now.
This is better stuff from Toronto. They're starting to shift the area in which the majority of the football's been played. Salford looking to shift, but they're inside their own 20 still.
They're not really used to losing. Toronto Wolfpack only lost 2 in the regular season. They drew 1, and that was against the Barrow Raiders. 8-all that was. Lost to Featherstone and London. Here's Robert Louis, and Louis gets the pass away to Chris Wellham. Wellham has got support from Louis on the inside. Louis, the ball onto Griffin. Griffin to Jackson Hastings. That is a classic try from the Salford Red Devils. Finished off by the man of the moment, Jackson Hastings. Great rugby league from Salford Red Devils. And Jackson Hastings is all smiles as he claims his 3rd try in the qualifiers.
We were just saying, weren't we, at how Toronto looked to have got themselves a foothold, stemmed the flow of blood, as you referenced, Bill, but they switched off on the last tackle. Some really smart play back on the inside. Louis to Evalds, back to Louis, out to Wellham, and Wheeler had switched off. The interplay then, and a nice ball from the prop for Jackson Hastings, follow up in the middle. It's the try and a half. It's arguably the try of the qualifying series so far. Great stuff. It's always tastier for a home fan on the last tackle, and from deep, and through pairs of hands. And George Griffin will be happy with that. First 35 minutes, it's included a kick and a try-scoring assist pass.
Well, 7 passes on a power play for 6 points before the break. This could be obviously the breaking point for the Toronto team here. They worked hard in defence, but that is just class. Their opponents have got more class than them, and given the opportunity, they've shown it.
And hats off to George Griffin, because we've seen a chip over the top from him with backspin, and now he showed up there to provide the final pass in that flowing Salford Red Devils move, which has taken the score to 18 points to 0 and left the Toronto Wolfpack players looking a pretty dejected bunch at the moment.
And it's worth making the point again, Bill, isn't it? As Ed Chamberlain lines this up, this could take them to 20 points still and maintain his 100% record. Just the difference that Jackson Hastings has made, and that Salford, among all other clubs that could have come in for his signature, were the ones who took a chance on him, and boy are they being repaid now for that.
Chamberlain is on target again. That's the easiest kick he's faced all afternoon, and Salford lead by 20 points to 0. 35 minutes gone.
Great to see, isn't it? Now levels, it's all about speed and the skill that they've got. I thought Chris Whelan may get closed down here, but he didn't panic. He didn't think the instinct was to go to the winger. Came back inside where he knew there were more red players in red shirts, and enough there for Jackson Hastings to slide close to the post. A little dive, and he'll be delighted with the way that it's gone.
Toronto really not able to pose much of a threat to this Salford side, who are running hot at the moment. Confidence flowing through them and playing some spectacular rugby league football at the moment. Just a shame that there aren't more here to see it, because they really are serving up plenty of entertainment with tries like that. And they're doing it at the expense of the much vaunted Toronto Wolfpack at the moment. Robert Louis, like Jackson Hastings, very much a man in demand. He was earlier in this season, I think, when Hull Kingston Rovers were trying to secure his services. Kick down the line.
Well, good players know when to speed it up and when to slow it down, and he's decided here now they'll just take the ball over the sideline and try and kill any enthusiasm that the Toronto team have got here. To control reset, Ian Watson, I'm very pleased. Kind of dreamt, I don't think, of a 20-point lead when he came here before the match, what he will be delivering at half-time.
Once New South Wales under-18s captain, Jackson Hastings, in some exalted company, captain of what was ultimately quite a star-studded side at that stage of his career. Captained the New South Wales under-20s as well. And he's still only 22. Well, Toronto, can they find a way through the Salford defence before half-time to give themselves some sort of hope of turning this around? Emmett, Andy Ackers is on the field for the Toronto Wolfpack. Here is Chase Stanley now. Stanley flicks the pass away, but Mason Caton Brown just has to dive on it to retrieve it. Here's McCrone now. McCrone, little chip kick over the top. Andrew Dixon chasing it, and it's Robert Louis ultimately who claims the ball.
All looking a bit frantic at the moment, isn't it, for Toronto? You'd like that they're experienced halves, aren't they, Josh McCrone and Blake Wallace? You'd like them to get a bigger handle on what's going on in that attacking third of the field.
Keep it quick now, Toronto.
Whelan plays the ball. Here's Lamatazi. Try score against Halifax last time out in that big win for the Salford Red Devils. Robert Louis, he's looking for a 40-20. He's just got plenty of distance on that. And they'll restart on the 20. The last couple of minutes of the first 40 minutes, which has been dominated by the home side here at the A.J. Bell Stadium.
They've dominated opponents with the defence, haven't they? That's been the key thing. They've kept them scoreless. They've never looked like breaking or scoring. In fact, by our records, Salford have made about 120 tackles and missed just 2, which is a tremendous standard that they've set themselves in the first 40.
Kopjak making the latest of those tackles. Here's another Welsh international, Jake Emmett, in the Toronto colours. Sidlow. Kopjak involved again. George Griffin in the tackle as well for Salford. Josh McCrone. McCrone running across the field. Gets away from the first couple of challenges. Then finds Corey Patterson. But Patterson loses possession and Louis comes up with it. And it was a knock-on by Salford.
Well, they might just get one more replay. The referee stopped the clock here as we see. It says maybe Robert Louis knocked on as he falls on the ball. We get one play perhaps from this scrum.
Yeah, Louis just batted that out of his grasp, didn't he?
Let's get back, please. Come
Yeah.
on, guys, let's get in.
There's Robert Louis just pushing it out of Corey Patterson's grip. Well spotted by the officials.
Find him. Find him.
Had a great season for Salford. He's missed only 3 games all year. But it's Toronto on the attack. Mason Caton-Brown will chase that kick ahead. It's too strong. And Niall Evans adopts a cautious approach. And they'll get the goal line dropout if Salford get round to delivering it. And they won't. And Salford, their coach Ian Watson, Martin Gleeson alongside him, very satisfied with an emphatic first 40 minutes. And they've scored 4 tries without response. All of those tries converted by Ed Chamberlain, who's also kicked a penalty goal. 3 tries, I should say. And it's put them on course for yet another victory in these qualifiers. They've won all 3 so far. They're on course to make it 4 from 4, unless the Toronto Wolfpack can find their bite in the second half, because they trailed 20 points to 0 at the break.
Peter, it's time to get up.
Marvel Spider-Man, only on PlayStation. For the players.
Knock that off.
Get up to £15 in free bets when England score against Spain at coral.co.uk. The smart money's on Coral.
Don't miss our best offer for superfast broadband at just £25 a month for 18 months, including line rental. And there's no activation fee for existing Sky TV customers. Plus, it's super fast, super reliable, and will never slow you down. So get super fast broadband for just £25 a month with no activation fee, exclusively for existing Sky TV customers. Search Sky Broadband. Pre-order Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2 in Sky Store.
Adidas Team Mode. Now in store and online at DW Sports.
Maltsmiths. When you love what you do.
Can Amir Khan take another step to welterweight world title contention? Find out live on Sky Sports Action.
Come on, daydreamer. You could at least pick up the post.
How do I tell you that I've been having nightmares about what those kids posted about me?
In every ending, there is a new beginning.
Do you fancy me? I mean, I can do.
My head in. You do my head in.
I don't know if it's me, really.
You got anything better to do?
That was an absolute wicked kick, that. little later from the south of France, we will bring you the league leaders St Helens in action against the Catalan Dragons. Last 5 league meetings between these two have gone the way of Saints, but their most recent meeting was that Challenge Cup semi-final won by the Catalan Dragons on their way to Wembley. No doubt the Challenge Cup will be paraded. We'll bring you all the action. 5:15 is our build-up start time. All right, we're at the AJ Bell Stadium. It is the round 4 of the qualifier. Salford so far unbeaten, have a 20-0 lead over the Toronto Wolfpack from the championship. 3 first-half tries for Salford. Some very enterprising play coupled with some very good defence that Toronto have not been able to breach. John Wells. Great start for Salford as well in this game. Early try.
Yeah, it was. You perhaps expected a little bit more resistance from Toronto, but this looked a little easy. Favoured side for Salford, certainly this first 40 minutes. Chamberlain as early as the 7th minute. And then the try that was disallowed. This is the Evalds no try, and it's Wellham who's chosen an incorrect line there on Gary Wheeler. Could have been even worse for Toronto.
Now we see Toronto or Salford go down to 12 men. I'm glad you called in the commentary that should have been a sin bin. He's got to get that out of his game. Too often from Lamatasi we see that.
Yeah, costly for him personally, but not for Salford as a team. Louis with the try, and then with, well, what can you can establish as an assist? It may be 60 metres away, but he's the reason that Wellham's in the clear, and then he passes back on the inside. What I said in commentary was the try that qualifies so far. Fantastically finished by Hastings, and look what's happened here. There's a real inquest, an inquiry underneath the sticks, led by Josh McCrone, who I think should perhaps be pointing the finger at himself and Blake Wallace. 2 very, very experienced halves, and he's getting some back there from Jake Emmett as well, because I think the forwards are doing their work. The halves need to take control of this game, otherwise they're going to find themselves in a big hole.
Right, let's have a look at the match stats. 57% for Salford, with a slightly higher completion rate than the Toronto Wolfpack. 10 missed tackles for the visitors, just 2 for Salford. They have been very good defensively. Handling errors, 6 apiece. Right, it was a question asked when these Super 8s were first mooted, but how would a side that was winning everything in the championship fare when they came up against a side that was from a higher level but had a difficult season? We're seeing that here today. We're looking at 2 sides that, it's not even a confidence thing, I don't think, John. This is just 2 different quality sides, in my opinion. We've got a slightly better Salford side than the Toronto team.
You have, and by way of explanation for what Toronto are up against, that is things that they're not required to do, perhaps week on week in championship level. If they get pass selection wrong on the 4th tackle, they can go again on the 5th and probably find a way through and probably find a try-scoring opportunity. Not so against a more experienced and more well-structured defence. And it also goes in the other side of the ball as well. On the 5th tackle, that what we reference now, Hastings' try has been the best try I've seen so far in the qualifiers, stemmed from a lapse in concentration on the last tackle, something perhaps they may well have been able to get away with at a lower level.
It was Hastings' try, he dotted down. It was the involvement of so many other players that was very impressive. It was a play out off the ruck to back in. Robert Louis turns it back inside to Niall Valls and then back out again. Difficult to defend if you're switched off in any way.
Yeah, the first part of it is preempted, back onside to Evalds and then back outside to Louis. Rest of this is off the cuff, and what I like is the amount of red shirts that are streaming through in support, none more so than that man in that classic fullback position, albeit he's playing in the halves to score underneath the sticks.
You did think before this game, John, that you could see the visitors coming away with a victory, but a narrow victory. They're 20 points down at half-time. Find a way for them back into this match here, because this will be an important victory for them if they were to record it. It would really blow these qualifiers, the automatic places, wide open.
Well, I think first of all, I can't see a way back for them, given what they've offered up in this first 40 minutes. I think you look at the experience of O'Brien, McCrone and Wallace and the spine of that visiting team, and they just haven't delivered. They've been put under all sorts of pressure, and my personal opinion before the game was based around those 3 being able to affect some kind of pressure and squeeze the edges of the opposition team. They've not done that.
You put yourself in the shoes now of a Salford Red Devils player and their coach Ian Watson. 10 points historically will get them automatic re-promotion back into Super League. They're sitting on 6. They'll go to 8 with a win here. You'd imagine Foot is already on the throat and is going to be squeezed now in the second 40 minutes.
This doesn't look like a side to me that is going to give up and is going to let up in any way. I think they're enjoying themselves. This has probably been the best rugby they've played all season in Super League, and they look like they're enjoying themselves more than they ever have as well.
Yeah, they have won their last 4 games, 1 in the regular rounds and 3 in the qualifiers. Okay, we're going to bring you a little later on, as I said, St. Helens against Catalan Dragons. We can bring you some news from Perpignan. Ben Barber, top try scorer in Super League, is out. Johnny Lomax will play at fullback for St. Helens, so that's quite a blow for Saints. He had hit a rough patch of late. We'll see what that means for the St. Helens side when they're in action. Okay, we're going to have a break now. We'll be back with second half action here from round 4 of the qualifiers, the AJ Bell Stadium. It is a half-time lead for the home side, 20-0. 3 first half tries. Difficult day so far for Gareth O'Brien. What has he and Paul Rowley got in the second 40 minutes? Find out shortly.
Big chase on him, Luke Gay with a drop goal! That's it! He has kicked it!
Hiya, Jane, you alright?
Yeah, I'm moving.
Really? Hey, me too.
So are we moving or what?
Seagull! Right, I'm going on Zoopla. 2-bedroom, safe neighbourhood.
That one's on Zoopla. That one is on Zoopla.
Really? Are you going to do this all day, love?
That one.
No way. 2-bedroom, near a good school, and the bills are even cheaper.
Does it come with the rock?
No, rock stays with me.
Start your search on Zoopla. Smarter about property.
Well done, wizard. You are a true friend of the crown. Dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly. What would you have me do now, Your Majesty?
Turn that into Bud Light.
Okay.
Now turn that statue into Bud Light.
You know, Your Highness, I can do other things. I can put a curse on your enemies. I can make you immortal.
Yeah, no, just the Bud Light thing.
Dilly dilly.
Keep it Bud Light.
Dilly.
Take a big bite of the life. Eat it like a cookie before it crumbles.
The Smart for 4 from £159 a month. Smart.
In Antarctica, a satellite phone is your lifeline. There's nowhere more extreme on Earth to build a runway. When this man's phone went down, DHL got a replacement halfway around the world within 36 hours. The runway was finished, allowing climate change scientists to continue vital research that will benefit us all. That's the power of global trade, and DHL is making it happen.
A new international tournament is on the horizon.
Europe's top footballing nations are about to go head-to-head once more.
It's all on the line.
Promotion, relegation, European qualification.
We enter the competition looking to keep up the momentum.
Time to put that disappointment behind us.
To find our feet again.
To restore pride.
To topple giants.
But all seeking glory.
The UEFA Nations League, live only on Sky Sports.
Well, hello there, Sky Store customers.
Hit it!
This sexy red spandex has become kind of a big deal since the first Deadpool. People can't keep their hands off me. I'm an X-Men.
Shut it!
Find Key Deadpool 2 or get the 2-movie collection in Sky Store now.
And perhaps weave a little bit of magic.
We've got Nations League football coming up for you tomorrow and Monday. It starts with Denmark-Wales. Wales, of course, with that big win over Ireland 4-1 during the week. 4:30 p.m. on Sky Sports Football. And then on Monday, Scotland in action at home against Albania. 1-0 winners over Israel. 7:30 p.m. Sky Sports main event for that. All right, after the game here at the AJ Bell Stadium, we'll go to the south of France and bring you the Catalan Dragons against St. Helens. Latest team news for Saints. Well, it's the strongest Catalan Dragons side. No Roby, no Barber for St. Helens. Young Aaron Smith will make his first appearance for the Red V. We'll bring you all the action. Kickoff 5:30. Our coverage starts 5:15 p.m. Right, halftime report here at the AJ Bell Stadium shows us a 20-0 lead to the home side. 3 first half tries and a very solid first 40 minutes. What have the Wolfpack got? Time now to cover across to the commentary team. Phil Clark, John Wells first, Bill Arthur.
Salford were keen to get out for the second half. Toronto even keener. They've been out on the pitch waiting. Whether they've got a G-up from their coaching staff, we will find out, because they have got some ground to make up in this second half. Disappointing first 40 for the Wolfpack. The game dominated so far by the Salford Red Devils, and already a hint of maybe a bit of more adventurous approach from Blake Wallace.
A case of, hey, come on, we're going to have a go. We've not come all this way to worry about just completing the rest of the match. We're going to die with a real fight. That's a much better pace and intensity. They've moved the ball. They've got 65, 70 metres in this set.
Emmett it was who played the ball. Josh McCrone finds Chase Stanley. Haven't really seen very much of the big name signing, former St George Illawarra man Chase Stanley. Here is Gary Wheeler. Wheeler steps away. His former club St Helens in action very shortly. That's the turnover. Saints up against the Catalan Dragons. Wheeler, a former Saints man.
Well, there you go. That just typifies Salford's defensive effort. If there is one missed tackle, a teammate comes alongside Robert Louis, cleaning up at the back to close down the play on Wheeler.
Lussick. Two tackles gone as George Griffin disentangles himself and plays the ball. Lamatazi sin-binned in the first 40 minutes for that high shot on Gareth O'Brien. And now he's Craig Kopczak. Only his second appearance in the last 9 games for Kopczak after 1 or 2 injury problems. Jackson Hastings sees acres of space, so he puts a good kick in. And O'Brien is there, so's Hastings.
It's a great kick again. Robert Louis in the first half put one that sat up in the in-goal area. And Jackson Hastings sat one just short of the try line. That's the biggest difference, really, isn't it? The quality, the accuracy of those kicks.
And if there's a way to silence what the ringing in the ears that's obviously been given by Paul Rowley in Toronto, it is some smart play like that, sticking him in the corner and then getting back to business.
Hastings is everywhere, making the tackle on Chase Stanley. That's the 5th tackle as Andy Ackers plays the ball. McCrone puts a good kick in this time down the middle of the field, and Chamberlain retrieves it on his own try line just next to those posts. And Sidlow makes the kick. Let's get to the half-time news. Down to the sidelines, Angela Powers.
Well, from Ian Watson's point of view, Salford have ticked all the boxes in that first half. They wanted a physical game that they really took to the Toronto team, and that's what they've done. They've challenged their middles and they've ticked those boxes, done what he really wanted them to do. So the message really is carry on doing what they've been doing in the first half. Now, Paul Rowley, his assessment was it was a poor first half for Toronto. He wants them to go back to what he called the simples: completion, run harder, tackle harder. It's not rocket science, just do the simple things better.
The kick from Joey Lussick, I think it was. Maybe not quite as he had intended, but gives Toronto a head and feed on their own 40-metre line. The Wolfpack next up, a home game against Toulouse. In fact, they've got back-to-back home games, Toulouse and Widnes, rounding off their qualifiers campaign with a game against the Leeds Rhinos at Emerald Headingley. Toronto-Toulouse, you can see next Saturday, 5:15 on Sky Sports Arena.
Well, if we're honest, this isn't a fixture which I guess Toronto would have banked on winning when they wanted to make it back. The home victories will be the ones that give them the best chance. Salford have been the best team so far in this qualifying tournament. They probably wouldn't expect to come away from win, although more closer than the 20-point margin at half-time.
To come for Salford, Leeds away, London away and Toulouse at home. So 2 points in the bag here, and they're within touching distance of reclaiming their Super League status, restoring their Super League status. Difficult to know what the correct terminology is. Blake Wallace hoists a kick into the corner. Chamberlain is underneath it, claims it well, and Wallace then makes the tackle on the follow-up.
Well taken there by Salford, dealing with the kicks. Very important part of the game. People say the game's changed a lot. If you look at the Challenge Cup final, the first 2 tries in that came from teams' inability to handle the high kick into the corner. Things haven't changed in my lifetime there. You've got to be able to take those kicks when they're put up high.
Robert Louis, familiar little skip as he took the ball in, just on his own 40-metre line. Now Mark Flanagan, notched up over 200 career appearances as Flash, including his stint in Australia and the Wests. Louis gets the pass away, but Wellham clinging onto that ball, and it's gone backwards. It's still gone backwards, says the referee. Evalds it is who retrieves it. It's on the last, little kick ahead.
Brilliant.
Oh, Evalds so nearly turning that into something spectacular. Instead it's Mason Caton-Brown who counters.
You've got to pay credit to Toronto's defence to close down Salford on that last play. It almost came off for Evalds, but the Toronto side immediately on the attack inside the opponent's half.
First opportunity maybe against a fractured Salford defence. Not for long though, because they've got back now. Here is Jake Emmett. Emmett trying to sell a dummy. Flanagan having none of it. Flanagan and then Lussick making the tackle. Blake Wallace with a little step. Lamatasi brings him down. Greg Burke out there as well. Ackers serves the ball up to Sidlow. Sidlow takes him on and gets over the line.
And he scored, Bill. Unbelievable.
Sidlow just used brute force there to get over.
Well,
and ultimately Salford had no way of stopping him.
The Wolfpack didn't do themselves justice in the first half, but they've started the second half with a better intent, more intensity, a greater pace, and a confidence here, really. Probably sometimes a team at their best when they're written off. Nobody expected a 20-point comeback, but Adam Sidlow may just have started it. Puts himself between Mark Flanagan and Joey Lussick, and neither of them capable of stopping the big fella.
And you can trace all that back to the defence they offered up against Robert Louis on the last tackle. Halfway line, hassled and harried, and then pushed Wellham towards the sideline, forced that play back inside from Niall Evalds. Salford willing to play, but Toronto equal to that. Found themselves in a position to take advantage, and they get the scoreboard ticking, not before time too.
They get Sidlow then, former Salford player, gets their first points on the board with that try, his first in the qualifiers. And Gareth O'Brien improves on it with that conversion. 20 points to 6. Things looking a little more rosy for the Wolfpack.
Well, they asked for a response and they got one, didn't they? Pressure on Louis there, forced him to the outside. And then this is all off the cuff, it's ad hoc. Wellham trying to get the ball away again under severe pressure from Russell. Ball back on the inside, and then that's when Evalds attempts to kick through. And this ball then falls into Toronto hands. They've obviously been given the round to the kitchen. And it may have taken a couple of minutes, but they've got a response and they're on the scoreboard.
Taking them a while to get into their stride, but this man, Adam Sidlow, has helped him do that with that try. And Sidlow has lost possession, and he's lost possession because of some devious doings by a Red Devil.
Devilish defence. Well, the referee's not happy with it. Maybe from his distance he's guessed and said the ball's been stripped out. Very hard for an official to make a determination. He has, but what do you do? I mean, how long do you stop the game for to determine how the ball was lost? You could argue about putting a second referee in close around the ruck to see on the backside how it came out. That might help. Some debate for the future.
Well, Adam Sidlow's been around long enough, played enough games in that area of the game where dark deeds are done to know that sometimes it goes your way. Well, Toronto now then, can they build on that try? Enjoying a good spell of possession. They need to make the most of this now. Another try, and the Wolfpack's tails would certainly be up. 4 tackles gone. Emmett struggling to get to his feet under pressure from Burgess. Here is Blake Wallace. O'Brien puts boot to ball, and Matty Russell will get that second try. And Toronto are on the way back here. The kick, delightfully tempting for Matty Russell. And he was first to react, to get his first try since June, his first in the qualifiers.
We knew that this Toronto had an exciting three-quarter line. The shape's better. Wallace out the back to Gareth O'Brien. This is the benefit of having essentially a standoff playing at fullback. The onside check is clear. No dramas there, and Matty Russell again in full flight. Sight to behold, isn't he? But the key man in all of this, my man who I was about to criticise earlier in the tackle count for not giving it to Chase Stanley on the right-hand side, puts a lovely weighted kick in, reads the defence, reads that Chamberlain's up, you just see out the corner of his eye, and that pops up really nicely for Matty Russell. I'll tell you what, we've got a ball game now.
Yeah, Matty Russell with the second try of the game for them, the second try in this second half. Now then, Gareth O'Brien with a 100% record as far as his goal kicking goes in the qualifiers. He's kicked 16 out of 16. If he lands this, then Salford will feel the hot breath of the Wolfpack on their necks. And O'Brien has missed. Just yanked it off target. But still, it's a good response from Toronto.
Well, the team from Canada didn't look like a Super League side in the first half. But all of a sudden, the quality we've seen to score that second one. I mean, Salford's try towards the end of the first 40 was sensational play. But the skill involved in the kick and the grounding there from Russell, well, that was of the highest quality.
It's getting a soft kick when you're going at full pace, and with so little time to react and adjust. That's why they've gone out and they've taken Gareth O'Brien from the Salford Red Devils as they did last year. And the result is that Toronto have halved the deficit in 3 minutes.
Oh! Wheeler upended Luke Burgess, making his presence felt with that tackle. Here is Emmett. Greg Burke involved as well, to be fair.
Well, Salford have stiffened up the defence there with 5 players, only 40 metres getting fortunate not to concede a penalty. And Akers kicks towards that sideline.
Fielded by Niall Evalds. Bibby. Good chase though from Toronto. Closed down the wingman. And here is Niall Evalds, weaving his way up towards that 40-metre line. Sidlow with the tackle. He's put in a big shift in, his Adam Sidlow. Comes in to join that tackle. Andy Akers and Corey Patterson, and Chamberlain's got a whack on the nose in the process.
Well, the Wolfpack needed to stiffen the defence. They lost so many of the arm wrestles in that first half, collisions that took place.
Akers, I think, catching him with the upper arm.
Tackle 3.
Chamberlain on the receiving end there. Right on the nose. Yeah, obviously did. It's not just Barry McDermott who can make these snap medical diagnosis. Yeah,
triaged him through quickly.
Yeah. Brisbane against St George Illawarra then from the playoffs in the NRL tomorrow, 6:55 AM on Sky Sports Arena.
With 3 great games so far this weekend to start the NRL playoffs. His brothers, Ashton Sims, involved with the Brisbane Broncos.
And two of the unfancied teams, if that's possible in that top 8, will go along with what Penrith Panthers were able to do this morning. I thought they were absolutely magnificent. You know, there's never been a more wide open final series than we are seeing this year so far.
They'll never beat the Roosters.
Corbin for Brisbane, Tariq for St George Illawarra. Ashton Sims brothers. Ed Chamberlain, meanwhile, back on his feet after that bit of patching up. And Toronto looking to continue this great start to the second half they've made. They've turned this game around. They've given themselves a chance. Robert Louis hoists the kick. Can Salford regain control? The ball bounces for Gary Wheeler, and Toronto have it back. Again, though, Toronto not dealing with the high ball particularly well.
Well, I would also, though, just to, I don't know, expand on that point, not dealing with it because of the pressure that they're put under. Salford are contesting so many of their kicks, or difficult ones along the floor. We've really mixed it up, varied it, and made every one of them, every collection of... Oh dear, oh dear. Well, that has to be a yellow card, doesn't it?
Yeah, he should start walking now, I think, Luke Burgess.
It's a pretty cool thing to do, isn't it? Get there before the clock begins.
Let's say he's got that wrong. Yeah, if he gets off the field, does that start the clock ticking? That's direct contact.
Oh, it's yellow or red, isn't it?
Well, there might be a bit of orange in this yellow because that is direct contact. That's a bad one. It's not. There's no malice in there. I think he's been wrong-footed and it's a reach, but it is direct contact.
It just
with
looks
the
worse
head
every time you see it.
Start walking, Luke.
I think he'll pull a red, do you, referee?
He's not a malicious player, though, is he, Luke
I'm not
Burgess?
saying it is. But those are the rules, aren't they?
Doesn't have to be malicious, does it, to qualify to be a red card?
I like his style. He's walked off as if it's going to be just a penalty.
The Velcro on that back pocket is obviously a bit too fierce.
What are we going?
Oh!
Not scared of putting a red card.
It's a fair result. It's a fair result. There's no argument here either from Luke Burgess. I think he knew immediately, and if he's got any shakes of the head, it'll be for himself. It's just a change of direction from Emma, and it's a reach there, isn't it? But there is no doubt about it.
Do you know, in slow motion, it doesn't change direction that much, does it?
No, it does look worse as it goes on, doesn't it?
Full speed, it doesn't look good. Hey, it gives this an interesting context.
Well, let's just wrap this up and say, thankfully, Jake Emmett is back on his feet, and there doesn't seem to be any ill effects there from him.
Well, Luke Burgess goes down the tunnel, Paul Heighton there to greet him, and this is deja vu, because the only other time they met in the Cup, Justin Carney was, of course, sent off.
And
Salford held on to win that
at the same time, about 50 minutes into that match.
Very different offence that was.
Well, if
verbal
they needed
abuse, I seem to recall.
If they needed a fillip or if they needed a boost, Bill, I think they've got it, haven't they? They've got it now because they'll be playing against 12 men for the rest of this game.
Well, they're down to 12 earlier on when Lamatazi was sin-binned. They'll be down, as John says, for the rest of this game with Luke Burgess sent off and immediately looking to capitalise. And they might do that now as Russell seeks his second try of the game. The defence is there. The ball's going backwards. That's good defence from Salford. Good scrambling defence. It was on the last. It'll be the turnover.
I've watched a lot of games of rugby, and when a team usually have a player sent off, the 12 men on the field find an extra 10% of energy. The challenge for Toronto is to also find an extra 10% of energy so that they do take advantage of the extra player they've got on the field. Sometimes you just sit back and think, well, we've got an extra man, that'll be enough. But you do have to lift because your opponents, generally so, find an extra gear.
What you will find is you'll find now the spacing between the defenders will be that half a metre bigger. You'll find yourself falling on the front more often. You'll find you get more quick to play the balls. The job now, as Salford cough up possession through Hastings, I think that the job and the role of McCrone, Wallace and O'Brien is even more important now because there will be half gaps, there will be quick play the balls.
Chase Stanley, I reckon that was the first mistake Jackson Hastings has made since he joined Salford. Meanwhile, penalty is awarded to the Toronto Wolfpack.
It's been a great 15 minutes for the Toronto team here now since half-time. The penalty, the possession, the players they're playing against. And Sidlow trundles forward now.
Hold now, hold. Go. Adam, played on the mark.
Here is Ashton Sims. And Toronto on the attack against the 12 men of Salford. They've got some defending to do now. And McCrone shepherded across the field by Niall Evalds. Ackers. Here is Blake Wallace now. Wallace onto Gary Wheeler. Wheeler carving his way through and just held up on the try line. Ed Chamberlain getting his body in the way. And he's lost that ball, Wheeler. There was a hand in there. And they're on a warning. Salford are on a warning. As if they haven't got enough problems.
Well, this will be interesting. They go down to 11 men.
I should point out Jake Emmett, who was on the receiving end of that tackle from Luke Burgess, is still out there. So well done to him. Back on his feet. Oh, and Ackers is going to go in. And Toronto have snatched another try. And Andy Ackers gets his second in the qualifiers. He got one against Halifax last week. And he's poached one there, and Paul Rowley, the Toronto Wolfpack coach, looks completely unmoved. But this is an exciting turnaround.
Well, Angela Powers said that the message from the Toronto coach was a simple one. Just do the simple basics. And they seem to be doing that particularly well here. Look at the run here. The gaps between the defenders are a bit wider, as John's pointed out there. There's no excuse to concede a try in that manner. Put Salford now under tremendous pressure.
Well, this is the worry, isn't it? When you're defending on your goal line, the threat is the shape and the space out wide. With a man down, you're really conscious and cognizant of what decisions the three quarters are going to have to make at short notice. So the natural instinct there would be that extra 30 centimetres either way, and that's all a player with the quality of Ackers needs.
Toronto getting their qualifiers campaign off to a winning start against Halifax. It was a hard-earned win. Andy Ackers was one of the try scorers. Gareth O'Brien adds the extras, 20 points to 16. 20-0 down at the resumption, Toronto. Now Ian Watson is seeing his side being put under pressure, and they have only 12 players on the pitch for the remaining 23 minutes of this game.
Well, the Wolfpack have turned from being the hunted to the hunters. I mean, it's not as if they've had the utilisation of dummy runners to score tries there. They simply picked it up and crashed over. And Salford need to ask themselves some big questions.
Here is Ashton Sims now. Catalan against St Helens. Next up on Sky Sports Arena from Gilbert Brutus in Perpignan. No Ben Barber, no James Roby for St Helens in that game as Saints look to wrap up this league leadership issue. It's just getting a little bit silly now. And Catalan Dragons looking to do a double on St Helens, having put them out of the Challenge Cup, of course, with that remarkable semi-final win before they went on to win the trophy.
Good defensive read by Jackson Hastings, just not able to close the ball down. And Toronto, well, they take an extra 5 or 10 metres.
Dixon has his bandage off his head, and that's what Salford wanted. The error from Toronto, and they get possession back.
Well, this is important piece of possession for Salford. They helped with a penalty that will get them up to the halfway line. They really need to calm down. Robert Louis, Jackson Hastings and co. Ashton Sims makes the tackle, but interference, he didn't clear the ruck quickly enough. Just, you see here, kicks the ball before it hits the floor, no knock on.
So can Salford steady the ship? Well, that'll help them. Another penalty. Well, lifting in the tackle there.
They've been on the wrong end of the penalty count too many times in the qualifiers, Toronto. They concede far more than they're awarded. And 2 penalties here now when they had their opponents under pressure. It's been a 20-minute period. Referee stops the clock, stops the game, just to check the junior sow's okay.
Chase Stanley with the tackle, former Kiwi on another former Kiwi, Junior Sow.
This could...
And that's painful.
Well, you do see yellow cards brought out for this, John. I've seen a few cards today. Will that be a yellow?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we have to start with the welfare of the player, and there'll be... I'm not going to do too much investigation into where the injury might have. Lower stomach area, between the stomach and the groin. But yeah, ultimately it's our responsibility of a defending player not to put the attacker or the player with the ball in hand in a dangerous position, a position where he's vulnerable to injury. You'd say the obvious places there would have been the neck and shoulders, but it's not the area that he's holding. And for the 3rd time today, referee Robert Hicks is reaching for the pocket.
You'd think you'd get a pair of shorts with 2 pockets on the back. One could be yellow, one could be red, then you'd make it far simpler. You'd never have to panic which card he was pulling out.
That's a great idea. There's a gap in the market there, isn't there?
Referee shorts. One of the big sellers.
So Chase Stanley levels things out as far as numbers on the pitch goes, at least for the next 10 minutes, as he enters the sin bin. So Lamatazi sin bin for Salford. Luke Burgess sent off for Salford. Now Chase Stanley sin binned for Toronto Wolfpack after that tackle. Dangerous tackle. And Salford, for the first time, potentially in this second half, putting Toronto's defence under a bit of pressure maybe. Because it has been all Wolfpack in this second half.
Well, another Toronto team are confident. If they could get to the 60-minute mark and still be close, they packed themselves in the last 20.
Hastings, a little step from him, but Dixon gets a hold of him. Then the support arrives from Ackers and Emmett. Wood, Louis, Ryan Lannon now. Lannon driving towards that try line, just to the left of the post. That's the 5th tackle. Wood, Hastings, little kick from him, and they can't hang around. Junior Sau's got a hand to it. Not in time.
And that's the difference between the two sides. Toronto, when they were getting to the end of their sets, they were going for the 8 or 9 out of 10 play. They're going for the try. This is really smart stuff from Jackson Hastings. You know, they're not bothered about scoring the points then and there. They're prepared to wait and prepared to sit it out and spend some time probing and pressing and trying to pull this Toronto defence out of shape.
The Salford fans giving Gareth O'Brien a bit of grief, which is a bit harsh considering what he did for them with that 2016 £1 million game. Not sure it was Gareth O'Brien who was the target.
See here, the ball goes off Gareth O'Brien there. Before it hits the floor, it hits the Salford hand. Arguable, Bibby, maybe the point could have been a tap on the 20, but that's by the by.
Meanwhile, here come the Red Devils again with Robert Louis. Can they quell this Toronto uprising? Griffin driven back. Just about 5 metres away now, they are over. And Lannon gets the try that Salford so desperately needed to stop Toronto's fight back, at least for the moment. Ryan Lannon returning to the side after missing last week's victory against Halifax gets his first qualifiers try. And the Wolfpack defence couldn't handle his run.
But here's the kick into the goal. John referenced it. First it comes off Gareth O'Brien, but before it hits the ground, there's clear contact with the Salford player. The referee's made a live call, and the Toronto team haven't made a live enough call there to make that defence agree. Ryan Lannon, who's been fantastic in the first 25 minutes where he's on the field, has simply thrown the ball as a dummy and then accelerated between the gap and done enough to score, to the delight of the shed here at Salford. They've started to sing again. They believe they're back on the way up to Super League.
That'll steady Salford after that flurry of points from Toronto, and Chamberlain will surely add 2 more to open up a 10-point gap again. They need really to make the most of this while the sides are level in terms of numbers, with Chase Stanley off the field for Toronto in the sin bin, because they'll still face quite a long time facing the 13 men of Toronto with 12 Red Devils. Chamberlain on target, 26-16. It's a very posh shed now at the AJ Bell Stadium, isn't it?
I think they've retained the same character though, still the same voices, and the passion here to see the side do their very best. Look at that. I think the proximity to Manchester City, Manchester United, got the singing quality of the football side around here.
So Toronto resume through the boot of Gareth O'Brien. And there's the try scorer, Ryan Lannon, the most recent try scorer. Like I said, he missed last week, but had played the previous 8 and was, once he was fit again, he was the first pick for coach Ian Watson. He's had a good season, Ryan Lannon. Josh Wood, here's Robert Louis. Really popular figure with the Salford supporters, Robert Louis. Wood. Josh Jones, Ashton Sims very quickly up on him. Bezic trying to release the grip. Wood. Louis hoists that one. O'Brien right underneath it. The pressure is on O'Brien, and the tackle is there very quickly indeed, and they timed it well. Mason Caton-Brown. Recent recruit, really, Mason Caton-Brown, making his 100th career appearance in this game. Joined from Wakefield. O'Brien. Here he is, Caton-Brown. Lannan with the tackle. Blake Wallace puts the kick in. It's a good one.
It's a great one for Toronto, isn't it? Basically, they've got 15 minutes. They need to score twice and convert. That's plenty time if they control the game, get themselves into a right position. They'll get back to 13 players in a few minutes' time and try and put their opponents under pressure.
He's been a bit more prominent, hasn't he, in the second half, Blake Wallace?
I think, yeah, Wallace and O'Brien. I've been disappointed with Josh McCrone, I have to say, but I think Blake Wallace and Gareth O'Brien have responded. And they look like the two that were prepared to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And you talk about 2 tries being the difference. Well, they've shown they can do that in as little as 3 minutes. Sidlow's try on the 47th and Matty Russell on 50. This is, in no way is this game safe in Salford's pocket, particularly, as you said, when Chase Stanley rejoins the field in 4 or 5 minutes' time.
Lannan a bit of cramp potentially. Nearly time for you to have your say as far as the man of this match goes. Some time to go yet, but the Ali Gap is the place to go to have your say on who will take that particular award. We'll have 4 nominees for you shortly. Hard one to call this.
Oh, you would think that Robert Louis would feature heavily. We've spoken an awful lot about Jackson Hastings, but the work that he's done and the interplay with Niall Lavelle, the prominence on the last tackle plays, there's a definite leader there on the field, and it's Robert Louis, and I think he's been exceptional today.
Knock on at the bases come. No, he said it's not come out. Oh, they got excited, Toronto.
So did you.
I did. Yes, I did. Sorry, should I apologise?
No.
Look, it's almost raked back, isn't it, by a Toronto player?
Was it Ashton Sims stretching out the boot? The referee said we'll take the scrum again. So Salford maybe get away with it.
I got excited because I like contests for possession, which we don't have very many in the game now.
Here is Josh Jones. 3 tackles gone. Greg Burke. Burke tackled by Sims and Emmett. And now Ryan Lannan. Score of that try that's settled a few Salford nerves, potentially. And now Louis again hoists a kick. This one maybe not deep enough from his point of view. They're still bouncing dangerously. And O'Brien has to retreat to get that one.
You're right. So many of Salford's kicks have been dangerous. You'd add that word to it. High ones, low ones, tricky ones, simple ones.
He's there making the tackle, Robert Louis.
Yeah, yes, he's keen, isn't he? He doesn't want to get himself into that nervous position that they were. Stood behind their own post, 20 points to 16, thinking, wow, this isn't going how I imagined from half-time.
It just looks, the whole approach is a lot more patient from Salford. They're obviously used to this intensity all season, the opposition that they face, and I was talking to Brian at half-time and saying I've never seen them look so comfortable and look like they've enjoyed playing the rugby at any point in the season, rather than what we've seen over the last 4 weeks. This is a good kick, though.
Just perfect, just perfect. And gives Salford work to do.
Which is a shame then, because they've managed to get 50 metres off the back of that. That should never have been the case.
Hastings swats aside the first challenge.
Make that 13-2 tackles, and that'd be really disappointing given the quality of the kick there. Toronto had an opportunity to really peg Salford back and start to apply some pressure, start to move the area in which the ball is being played, and they've not taken that. I'm just checking here whether Niall Evans has actually got his foot just back in play.
Salford just inside Toronto territory. Here's Jackson Hastings, and he knows it's safety first time, really.
Smart again from Hastings. That's the patience that we're talking about. That's the patience and the calmness that we're talking about, that we've seen from both Louis and from Hastings. You know, and if they do end up winning the game, Phil, it'll be plays like that. They're not magnificent, but they're the right play at the right time.
If you want your teammates to defend, I suppose 45 seconds of getting the breath back here gives them a better chance to do that here now more effectively. I think that's why a lot of teams kick it over the side here now.
Showing lots of guile and experience, Jackson Hastings. He is only 22.
Well, if you're gonna finish the game with 12 men as well, I mean, you lose a minute there, don't you? For the ball into touch, that's smart on its own.
Not surprisingly, Jackson Hastings is one of the man of the match nominees. Robert Louis is another name in contention. Adam Sidlow, who's had a big second half for Toronto, and Andy Ackers, try scorer for the Wolfpack as well. So those are the 4 nominees, as Dixon manages to break free, just slipping out of the tackles, and Toronto on a roll now. The hour league app is where to go to register your vote. They've got the numbers here. Wheeler for Russell. Russell steps back in field. Great defence that time. Wheeler over the top and out of play.
Came off a Salford hand.
Work from Salford.
Well, did it come off a Salford hand? That seems to be the indication from the touch judge. It is. The referee says the same. And Toronto are still alive here. 10 points behind, just over 10 to go. But Salford's defence there to get over. Look at the number, 4 men around Russell as he gets the ball. 5 if you include Griffin. He's watching for the tip back over the top.
Good agility from the touch judge as well. It's the touch judge's call. It's Robert Louis' arm as the judge to have made contact.
Nice work.
Well done, Jack Smith. Yes.
He doesn't need to move from the ball, though, does he? He is allowed to touch it.
The break down the right-hand side was decent, wasn't it? Andrew Dixon, nice line running. Again, just a question mark about that. The play after the play we were talking about in the first half. It's lacking a bit of Christmas in the passing.
Emmett plays the ball. Blake Wallace, and Louis shoots out of the line to close him down. Man of the match candidate, our league app. Make your vote count. Here's Jake Emmett again.
Well, they've got them here on the long side to come left.
If they can get there. Blake Wallace. Wallace taking him on himself. And the door slams shut in his face. And the defence is again good.
Well, he's overlost it because he grounded it. No, held up.
Great work from Salford again. And they're up against a full complement in Toronto colours now. Chase Stanley back on the field after his spell in the sin bin. And here is Stanley chasing this one, but it's too strong.
And the kick overcooked by O'Brien, but it was the attention he was receiving by Jackson Hastings. Hastings was coming at him, gave him very little time. He's produced some magical moments as O'Brien in his time as a footballer on this field. Mainly in Salford colours. We've seen a couple of glimmers today in Toronto colours. This is a massive next 10 minutes for the team from Canada.
Chamberlain juggling with that ball. Here is Chris Wellham now. Wellham, Wheeler scrags him to the ground. Woods, Salford rolling forward. Griffin, and Griffin's lost possession, and Patterson will pick up and try and make the most of the free play, but comes to nothing. And Toronto will have it back, and George Griffin losing possession. Good tackle from Andy Ackers, I think it was.
Helped out by Bob Bezic as well on this side.
Pardon.
Time off. The mark is here. Back here, please. Toronto, back here.
26-16 into the last 10 minutes. Paul Rowley, it's been a good second half from his side.
16-6, isn't it? The last 30 minutes of this, 31 minutes of this game. They've been the better team.
They were
something very special though, aren't they, now to dig it out?
They were way off the pace in the first 40 minutes though, and that's ultimately what's going to have cost them. Unless they can make the most of their numerical advantage in the closing minutes of this game.
Good run again from Dixon.
Now they're coming forward again with Darcy Lussick. Looks like little brother Joey is going to be the one celebrating in the Lussick family. Their dad here to watch this one. Short ball finds Dixon. Looks forward. Certainly to Salford eyes it looked forward. Here's Sidlow now. Rolling forward. Blake Wallace. Quick hands. Wheeler. Again, good defence from Salford. And that's the turnover on the power play.
Great defence from Chamberlain. Great read in defence. He's picked up an injury for his trouble. But that's a good read. You know, his eyes on Gareth O'Brien. The timing of this, it's perfect. There's no opportunity for him. Well, I'm over the top, but it's the wingman who's come in and really shut down at exactly the right time Gary Wheeler's line run.
Wheeler knows a thing or two about injuries, unfortunately, during his fragmented career. He's had 10 years in the game. He's only just reached 100 career appearances because of just the bad luck he's had with injuries. But he's been ever present in the qualifiers so far, just limping off to the sidelines. So Salford survive. Remember, Luke Burgess sent off for that high tackle. And here's Junior Sal trying to break through the tackle of Andy Ackers. But Ackers held firm. Dixon gets a hold of Josh Wood now. Josh Wood's had a great season. He's missed only one game of 27 as the 22-year-old. Here's another Josh Jones. Bulky figure. Second row centre, Josh Jones, the former Saints man. His former side up next against the Catalan Dragons. Penalty to Salford.
Well, that's a lucky call, really, isn't it? It was a good set from Salford. They got up over the halfway line. They just did what they had to do, but you often see that as a knock-on, really. It was a similar incident in the first half where the player was penalised for not playing the ball correctly.
Ian Watson down on the sidelines, exuding calmness. And his side heading for a fourth win from 4 games in the qualifiers, taking them just a step closer to restoring their Super League status. And Ed Chamberlain will take some seconds off the clock, and with a 100% goal-kicking return in this game, look to add 2 more points to put the game, they hope, beyond the Toronto Wolfpack. Some distance for Chamberlain to cover with this kick. Just inside his own half, launches it towards those posts and those Salford fans who salute his accuracy. And Salford stretch it, 28 points to 16, they lead. They're on course to make it 4 from 4.
And much has been made of Jackson Hastings, of course, and Robert Lewin, the so-called bigger names in this side, but Chamberlain joining from Widnes early in this year, you look at his contribution today, for example, 16 of the 28 points have come from one man. He's been solid under the high ball, he's been reliable in defence. Great contribution from him personally.
And Salford have the ball back from that restart. Toronto looking for the short one. Darcy Lussick showing no end to the enthusiasm that's characterised this second half performance, but it was probably absent or not at such a level in the first half.
Well, next week against Toulouse, they have a chance to show that they can do what they've done in this second half for the full 80. And if they do that, you'd have to think that at the very least they'll end up in the £1 million match, give themselves a 50-50 chance of getting into Super League next season.
London leads Toulouse to come for Salford as that kick's hoisted. Oh, it's squirted away. O'Brien has it back, but Russell couldn't correct it.
George Griffin, stop it. Stop it. That's two kicks that have come up trumps from the prop forward in one game. Stop now, quit. Stop while you're ahead.
Where's the knock on though? Does he go through the arms onto the leg and then forward?
That counts as a knock on in my book.
Does it?
He's got to be more secure there, hasn't he, in defence of that ball. And once again, they put themselves under pressure. It's an opportunity missed here because when Burgess was shown the red card on 52 minutes by referee Robert Hicks, at the scores 20 points to 10, you really thought, particularly with Akers going over 5 minutes later, that there was a resurgence on the cards and Toronto could perhaps come away with a Super League scalp. You know, I don't think, and particularly now giving away a penalty and yet more time not in possession of the ball, that they've really given up an opportunity they should have made more of.
Well, I thought they were going to...
Well, it's a differential penalty. You're not allowed to kick, are you, from a penalty like that, from a scrum situation. You see the referee waves his arm up and down. It's a slightly different signal.
Well, the players were signalling to the sidelines.
I don't know the rules
so
either.
it's good to know. I'm not the only one. 5 metres out then. Well, it could be better than 2 more points from Ed Chamberlain, who has been a big contributor to this Salford cause in the qualifiers. I mean, last week he got a try and 7 goals, so he has, John, been a great acquisition for them.
Well, it's the goals, you know. Every time you cross the try line, the likelihood that it's going to be 6 points, not 4. That's massive in the qualifiers. That's going to be as tight as it is.
Very astute move that was on behalf of Salford. Well, the Haraki going the other way. Jackson Hastings will go for 1 and misses.
Well, you can see the sense in that. Getting the 1-pointer would make them comfortable, wouldn't it, at the moment? It's still mathematical possible that Toronto could force a draw here. It's something remarkably spectacular.
It would have to be spectacular, on a par with Hull Kingston Rovers spectacular.
Back-to-back tries, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
You look now at what Toronto have done in games against Super League opposition, and you know, I think they really tested Hull KR at home, and they've really tested Salford here away. You know, these are good signs for the Wolfpack. You know, this is a side that has its stated aim is to make Super League and play in the top level of this competition. And I think, whilst not getting the result today, these are going to be a real threat in the qualifiers, and have every chance, if not qualified automatically, to qualify through that £1 million game.
Blake Wallace gets the pass away to Corey Patterson. Ultimately, Matty Russell stepping back in field. They're not done yet, but Lussick tries to intercept. It's Kopchak, I beg your pardon, who tried to intercept.
And once again, that right edge, Bill, that right edge defence for Salford, it is being tested, and they've risen to every challenge so far.
Well, you see the Toronto side then, they were desperate to form the scrum to get the referee to stop the clock as Patterson tries to find Russell, but they end up with the Kopchak interception going to ground. One of the other points, even if they can't win this game, scoring 4 or 6 more points may be hugely significant when we get to the end of the qualifiers. Points difference, if you remember looking at the table at the start of this game, so many sides all got the same number of wins. Points difference will determine where teams finish.
It could realistically determine the difference between playing in Toronto and playing in Toulouse, let's say. Points difference. So when you think there's nothing on the line, with 5 minutes to go and the game's done, you've got to start thinking ahead, and that's why they're in such a rush to form that scrum. And the breaking players, Junior Sau is receiving treatment. About 10 or 12 metres out, he's getting some strapping applied to the arm. The injury is he's holding up play at the moment.
Junior Sau in need of attention. So Toronto will be on the plane tomorrow. They'll head home, prepare for their next assignment, which is a home game against Toulouse. The travelling, they've only just sort of the last couple of days got their bearings after the journey over. So you've got to factor that in for the Toronto Wolfpack. And they've lost possession and Chase Stanley, disconsolate. Hasn't really had the impact you'd expect, Chase Stanley. Not in this game.
He's thinking about what he's going to do with that ball before he's caught. Just a little look up at Junior Sau.
Let's get in, guys.
That's been an intriguing battle between those two former Kiwi internationals.
It's never really caught fire though, has it? I expected the same. I was looking at the team sheets earlier today, and I liked what I saw from Chase Stanley, particularly in the game against Hull KR. I thought he was influential, some really key moments, albeit in defeat, and you could see there the potential as this team grew in confidence throughout this qualifying campaign. But yeah, that matchup between Sau and Stanley's never really caught fire this evening.
Salford closing this game out. A game that they were fully in control of at half-time with that 20 points to 0 lead. Hasn't been quite such a comfortable ride in this second half, especially since the sending off of Luke Burgess. And there are coaches Ian Watson and Paul Rowley just chewing the fat on the sidelines. Contemporaries, Rowley and Watson, and now looking for Super League status for their respective clubs. In Salford's case, retaining Super League status. As Louis hoists the kick, O'Brien claims it. Ooh, and then Jackson Hastings gets a hold of him, and just Darcy Russell, is it Josh McCrone, I beg your pardon, and McCrone didn't like the tackle from Hastings, which has left Gareth O'Brien in a bit of discomfort. Yep.
Oh, it's a bad one as well.
That is a swinging arm.
That's a shocker. The right arm, look at the right arm from Hastings. That's a shocker.
It's a red card, isn't it?
It is. That is a red card. And there's no wonder that there's been a response there from his Toronto teammates. And he may well look and he may well have a right smile to Martin Gleeson, but he's in danger of having a really poor end to this game because of this action here.
I think that's his last Salford game for 2018.
There's no need for that.
It's a shocker, and there's a right knee as well just on the way through.
It's the last minute of the game.
It's born out of competitive, but just look at that as well. It's just unnecessary. For all the qualities that that man's got and all that we've been speaking about him over the last couple of weeks, I'll be amazed if he stays on the field to see the last 10 seconds of this game out. And then, of course, you're at the disciplinary, and this is a Salford side that, although we'll go to 8 points on the table, will be a worry now for Ian Watson going forward, because he'll likely miss a game for this. That's a shocker.
Always involved, Jackson Hastings, and he's gone for that pocket again.
Sticky pocket again, isn't it?
Oh no!
Just needs a pocket on the left side as well as the right.
It has to be a red.
No, that just leads to more confusion, doesn't it? If he gets the wrong pocket, then
never mind the pocket. It has to be a red.
Well, Gareth O'Brien is still down. This is no laughing matter for him.
It's a really dangerous shot to the head. Is that? That's a really dangerous.
Could have broke his jaw, couldn't he? When you look at the movement to the lower mandible there, and then his head hits the floor. Could be a broken jaw.
Gareth O'Brien.
I don't think he'll play again this year.
And Gareth O'Brien?
No. Jackson Hastings.
He's got that card pocket.
And do you know what? We're not being voyeuristic here and going, I'm glad he's got a red, but we need this sort of thing needs stamping out of our game. There's absolutely no two ways about that, and I'm glad that we've got a referee who's prepared to go to the pocket.
Presumably O'Brien's going to have to leave the field, although there's only a few seconds to go.
Jake, just go that way, mate.
And
yes, mate.
Referee Robert Hicks, who's had a difficult game, goes for red. Second sending off in this contest. Luke Burgess saw red for Salford. Jackson Hastings now sent off for that high tackle on Gareth O'Brien. Ian Watson bewildered, but I think if you see that again,
it's the first slipper of the mask, isn't it? Because he's been exemplary on and off the field since he's come over here, and he's going. And I like this. That's a nice touch. He's gone over, but I think
it's not good doing that just because you're going to go to discipline.
When he looks back on it, I think he'll realise what he's done. And there's a chance he's not realised what he's done there. There's a swinging arm. I don't think he realised the contact he made with the head of Gareth O'Brien in the area of the head that he made it.
Well, that's how it's described, as reckless. And it's brought a sour end to proceedings here at the AJ Bell Stadium, with Salford celebrating, but at the same time, both supporters and the Salford coaching staff absorbing the fact that Jackson Hastings, who has dominated this qualifiers campaign for them, has been sent off in the closing seconds. 2 players sent off for Salford, Burgess and Hastings. They've won the game, but they could pay a heavy disciplinary price for that. It's taken the gloss off it to a certain extent, but when all's said and done, Salford have picked up another win in the qualifiers. They've moved a step closer to Super League survival, and Robert Louis has played a big part in that. He is man of the match. He's with Angela.
He's indeed. There's your silver salver, man of the match. Congratulations. That was hard work, though. Second half, they came right back at you.
Yeah, Toronto, tough team, you know. We always knew we had to stay in that grind. Burgess got sent off, didn't help us, but credit to the boys, they stuck in there and defended well.
And right at the end as well, with losing Jackson Hastings as well.
I know. Well, you know, Gaz is a top player. You know, we love him to bits here at Salford. But hope he's all right, and he had no need for that, Jackson, but we'll take the win.
Big test for you, that game. Well, it'll be good going into the next one. 2 away games now.
Yes, we've got Leeds away. That's going to be a tough one. You know, they play good at home. We just got to leave this game behind, look at video, what can we fix on, and look forward to Leeds.
1.5 feet in the Super League for next year.
Yeah, 1.5. Hopefully we can get two in there next week. But we'll take that, and, you know, it's good to get the win at home.
Great. There's your cheque for a charity to your choice. Where's it going to go?
Just to Springwood School, autistic school. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Louis. Robert, thank you. Thank you so much, mate.
Yeah, congratulations to Robert Louis and the Salford Red Devils. 4 consecutive qualifiers wins now, and they will go to 8 points on the table. But perhaps a costly action towards the end of that game. We will discuss it shortly. Right, here's a reminder of the scoreline. It was a 20-0 at half-time to the home side in the end. 28-16 after a somewhat of a comeback by the Toronto Wolfpack in the second half. Right, look at the qualifiers table. Salford now 10 points should get them automatic promotion based on previous years. They are now up to 8 points. Toronto stay on 4 points and are now in the £1 million game positions. All right, mission accomplished for Ian Watson and the Salford Red Devils. John Wells, they've had the victory here against the Championship's top side. I just wonder how costly that Jackson Hastings red card may be. 2 red cards in that game for the Red Devils. First those to Luke Burgess. Let's have a look at this and get your thoughts on this again.
Yeah, well, I think I made my thoughts pretty clear in the commentary. First, Burgess, he's been caught with a little subtle late movement from Jake Emmett. There's no doubt about the card. I think Robert Hicks has had a good game in that respect and is not afraid to go to the pocket.
Now, a little earlier, a bomb was put up that Matty Russell dropped, and Gareth O'Brien and Jackson Hastings had it coming together at that moment. This happened a little later on from it, with O'Brien catching this one successfully at Hastings. In the words of Robert Louis, his own teammate, there's no need for that, Jackson.
I'll say this. The tackle is a red card. There's absolutely no question about that. He's made direct contact with the head. I will say this about it. I think that action of coming across is an attempt on the ball, and he's got it wrong. I don't think it is an attack at the head. It's contact with the head. But all this is the only difference this will make is how many games he's going to get at the disciplinary.
Well, keep your phone on. Ian Watson might take you to disciplinary with a defence like that, John Wells. Thanks very much. OK, that's game 1 of today done from the qualifiers. Victory for Salford. We're going to go to the south of France next. It's the league leader, St Helens, in action against the Challenge Cup winners, the Catalan Dragons. We'll have a preview to this match coming up, and all the teams and all the news from the Stade Gilbert Brutus after this break.
miss our best offer for superfast broadband at just £25 a month for 18 months including line rental. And there's no activation fee for existing Sky TV customers. Plus, it's super fast, super reliable and will never slow you down. So get super fast broadband for just £25 a month with no activation fee, exclusively for existing Sky TV customers. Search Sky Broadband. Pre-order Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2 in Sky Store.
Peter, it's time to get up.
Marvel Spider-Man, only on PlayStation. For the players.
At Morrison's, all these tubs of chocolate are any two for £8. Big night in. Morris.
It may not look like it, but this is the start of a fast-moving global e-commerce business. Wool from these goats will be turned into cashmere sweaters by designers in Hong Kong and shipped by DHL to people all over the world within 48 hours. That's the power of global trade, and DHL is making it happen.
The Smart for 4 from £159 a month.
Smart.
Here's your moment.